This video will show you how to create the cow catcher for our miniature train project. The way that we're going to be making the cow catcher is we're going to be starting off by making two sketches of the polygons that make up the body of the cow catcher. So if you notice, the overall body of the cow catcher is basically a polygon. So if you can kind of see these points right here form a polygon that make the smaller one on the top, and then there's a larger one that makes up the bottom. So we're going to be making those two sketches and connecting them using a loft to create the entire solid body. And then if you notice, the entire cow catcher is hollow on the inside. So we're going to be adding a shell to hollow it out. And then we're going to be adding some extrusions using the offset tool to make the front. And then we'll be adding some extrusions on the back to make the connectors. And then we'll be chamfering those ends. So let's go ahead and start. Make a new part, and then create a sketch, and then I'm going to build this from the bottom up, so I'm going to choose the XZ plane for that. Okay, and then like I said, we're going to be making those polygon sketches. So if we go to our drawing here, we're going to start with the bottom one, which is kind of dimensioned on this drawing here, so we can see, let's start with the longest line, which is 1.8 inches. So 1.8. And then next, let's add in the sides. So if you notice, this says 0.25, and that says typical or type. So that means that this line, as well as the other side, even though it doesn't necessarily dimension that, is also 0.25. Go ahead and add 0.25 on both sides. Next, let's figure out the total height of it. If you notice, the total height is 1 inch, and then we know that this is the center of our polygon, so I'm going to add a construction line going up the center that goes up to a total height of 1. So again, I'm going to add a line. I'm going to find the center point of this line, and then we're going to just dimension that to 1. Okay, let's turn that into a construction line. And then all we have to do now is create a line that connects these. So we're just going to go from the end of that point to the end of our construction line. And the same thing for this side. We don't even need to add in the other dimensions for this because we know that this is in the center because that's where we drew that. Okay, so this one is done, so we're going to click Finish. And then I'm going to click on Home. What we need to do now is use a work plane to offset the height of this, because we don't want to draw the sketches right on top of each other. We want to loft to them, so we need to go to Origin to find the work plane that we can offset from, which is going to be our bottom plane, or the XZ plane. So I'm just going to left click on that and then go down to the Offset from Plane tool. All right, and now we want to type in the height, or the distance between the bottom and the top polygon here. So if we look at our sketch, the one that has that is this, so it says that that total height is 0.75. So we're just going to type in 0.75 here. All right, and we want to just make our smaller sketch on this. We're just going to click that, and then to create a sketch, and I'm going to change my view and rotate it here. Now, this sketch is centered around this, so this center point we're going to be drawing our lines from. We don't want to start drawing over here, because if we start drawing over here, then that other polygon is not going to be centered on this. We know that this polygon is smaller than the other one that we have. So if you notice, the dimensions for the smaller polygon are up here. Notice it only has a height of 0.75, and then the width of that line is 1.2 inches. So let's start with that. Let's start with the 1.2 inches. And again, we're going to draw everything from the center, so we're going to go half of 1.2 this way and half of 1.2 the other way. So again, let's actually add a construction line going all the way across here first, and let's just make this 1.8. Again, just so this overlaps the other one. All right, and I'm going to click that and turn that into a construction line. And this is already looking a little weird, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on sketch 1, and then I'm going to make that invisible, or uncheck the visibility, so that way it's not confusing and hard to see our dimensions. So find the center point of that line, click that, and we know that we need a line that has a total distance of 1.2, so we're going to go 0.6 to the left, and then we're also going to go 0.6 to the right. Okay. Just going to try to maybe move that out of the way. Okay. All right, next let's find the dimensions for the sides. All right, so those are also 0.25, which is what we had on the bottom. And then just like we did before, starting at that center point, let's draw a line representing the total height, and then we'll just connect it. So the total height of this one is 0.75. And let's turn that into a construction line. And then we'll just use lines to connect that. Okay, finish that. And let's go ahead and show our sketch, our first sketch. So I'm going to go down here and select visibility again. We do not need this work plane anymore, so I'm going to right click on that and uncheck the visibility. And let's just click on our home view. Okay, what we want to do now is use the loft tool to connect these to create our solid body. So we're going to select loft, and then for your sections you want to select your first one and then select your second one, and you should see those green arrows showing you that it's going to create the solid body. If you don't see those green arrows, that probably means that one of your profiles is not completely closed. So go back and try and close off those sketches or redo those sketches to get that. So this is our entire solid body of our cow catcher. Let's go ahead and hollow it out. So I'm going to rotate my view to the bottom side, or the side that has the larger polygon that we just drew. All right, and then I'm going to scroll down and find what the thickness of this shell is, which if you notice is right here. So notice that that says that is 0.1 for the thickness. So we're going to go back to our Autodesk window, and then we are going to use the shell tool. So we're going to click shell, and then we'll click this bottom face, and then you'll notice that mine was actually already selected at 0.1. If that's not, go ahead and change that thickness to 0.1, and then click OK. And then you should be left with a shell that looks like that. Okay, so just the bottom should be hollowed out. All right, next we're going to be adding the extrusions on the front that will remove part of this face. So let's go ahead and just stick with this side right here. So I'm going to create a sketch here. What we need to do first is create lines that overlap this, and then we're going to be using the offset tool to create the inner part of this, because the way that this looks, it's almost like a picture frame a little bit. So we want to use the offset tool, but we need lines to base it off of first. So let's go ahead and add some lines that kind of trace over just this face. Okay. And then with that done, you want to use the offset tool. So we're going to click offset, and then you want to click on, make sure that when you click on this, you see all red lines. All right, and then we're just going to change this to, let me look at the dimension, it's 0.1. So just change that to 0.1, and then click OK. So you can tell mine kind of messed up there a little bit. It's probably related to this not completely closing off. Let me go ahead and undo that. I think a better way to do this is actually to use the project geometry rather than tracing over those lines. That way it's, I know that it's using these lines and it is going to be closed off. All right, then we're going to use offset and then just click any of those lines and then do 0.1. for our offset, click Finish. And then what we're going to do is use the extrusion tool to extrude that in. So we're going to click Extrude, click the inner part of the profile. We obviously want that to be a cut. And then let's go and look at the dimension for that. So if you notice, that is extruded only 0.05. So let's go ahead and change that to 0.05. Click OK. All right, and then we're just going to repeat that for the other side. So click this other side. Let's do this the better way first this time. So let's click Project Geometry and then just click on those lines. All right, and then click Offset. Again, 0.1. Finish. Extrude. Click the center. Change it to cut, and then it should already be at 0.05, and click OK. All right, so that should be the front pieces done. The only thing left is the back holes, so let's make a sketch on the back. All right, and I'm going to be using some circles for this, but let's look at what the dimensions are for that. So the dimension for this, if you notice, the bottom ones are 0.25 from the bottom up, and then 0.275 from the left and right edge. So let's just add a point actually, and we know that it is 0.125 from the bottom. And then, like we said, it's 0.275 from the corner point. So from that point to where our circle will be is 0.275. Okay, let's go ahead and add in the other side. Again, that needs to be 0.125. And this needs to be 0.275. Okay, let's add in our middle one, which, if you notice, is dimensioned 0.625 from the top, and obviously that is centered. So point, and then just make sure you find the center point of this line. So you should see that line there, the green dot on the bottom, and then just kind of place it wherever for now, and then we'll just dimension the height. So we'll click Dimension, click the point in the bottom line, and like we said, that was 0.625. Click OK. All right, so there are all of our points. What we can do now is add in some circles on these points now that they're placed correctly. And let's see where the dimensions for that are. If you notice, those dimensions are right here. So they have a diameter of 0.125, and they are also, from this dimension here, they're also extruded out 0.125. So let's just add some circles over the top of these. That is 0.125. Okay, click Finish, and then Extrude, and then select your circles, and then again these are going to go to a distance of 0.125, and then click OK. All right, so there's our connectors. The last step that we need to do is we need to add this chamfer here of 0.01. So go to your chamfer tool, change this distance to 0.01, and then just click on each of these outer edges for those connectors, and then click Apply. And that is the cow catcher.